Hi, you guys. We are so excited to share a little bit today because I'm sure you're wondering whether or not you should leave him.
What? That's what we're going to talk about today? Okay. Man, that's intense.
I mean, let's face it, we all have this question in our mind at least more than once, no matter who it might be. And it's usually too late to identify those signals that maybe this isn't the one.
I think it's kind of like the elephant in the room. It's something that no one really wants to talk about, but it's really on everybody's mind if you're in a relationship. That's whether you're married, whether you're dating, long-time relationship that may not be going anywhere. And a lot of times women are going, should I leave him or should I stay?
And so we hope to maybe give you some clarification as to whether or not that might be you.
Yeah. And so there's many situations that can happen in the course of a relationship. And sometimes things happen that are very negative. Some things upset us. Some things disappoint us. And some things happen that we go, man, can I continue to move on with this person? Or should I just count my losses and just move on?
And for my husband, he always is very particular in the way that he does things. He might have seen me as someone, do you know what? I don't have my stuff together, so why would I want to be with her? And so it might even be like, do men want to stay with their women as well?
I know that just made me think about, when we first got married, because if we're honest, we all have expectations of the person that we're going to enter into a relationship with, whether getting married or just being boyfriend and girlfriend. And for me, one of my expectations was that since I was pretty much the breadwinner, that my wife would cook for me, that she would take care of the home. And I was like, kind of excited about that. And I remember when it wasn't going the way I expected, so I felt like I had to kind of lean in a little bit and kind of say, hey, babe, since I'm working, can you please cook? And can you straighten up around the house?
And I was already so overwhelmed. I was in school full time. I was getting my master's, and I had so much going on that anything cleaning wise, it was not on my priority list, and it overwhelmed me.
So I remember the first time that she cooked. And so I was all excited because when I came home, she had dinner ready, and it was horrible. I mean, it was like
I don't cook.
almost unedible. And I'm thinking, is she trying to kill me? And so I remember eating it thinking, this is not what I dreamed about. This is not an expectation that I had. And so I was just really, really troubled by that. But over the course of our relationship, I realized, or better yet, the Lord put it on my heart saying, serve your wife. You know how to cook and you cook very well. I'm like, God, it's not fair. But I just remember kind of cooking and just started doing what I could do to serve my wife, and things just kind of worked out. And so when I was at that point of thinking, should I leave her? Is this like a deal breaker? I realized that it wasn't, because there's going to be ups and downs in relationships. There's going to be expectations that are not met. And when those things happen, we just pivot and we just move with it. We make, I want to say alterations. I don't know why. We make alterations and we just kind of go with it because of the commitment that we made.
Yeah. And even think about it as well, because I did not cook whatsoever, we can try to force our own agenda on someone else and put them in roles that it's not meant for them to be in just because of our own expectations. And then that causes frustration. It builds up resentment, bitterness. It makes us feel more proud in our stance, and it can justify our actions.
Yeah. And one of the things that happened when we first got married, and I don't know if you watched our video, How to Find Your Mate, but we have this amazing story how God just divinely put us together. And what was interesting over the course of our marriage, I just kept hearing this voice, especially when things maybe are not going as perfectly as I thought they would, saying, you married the wrong person. And I remember asking my wife about that. I go, hey, I've been hearing this voice. do you ever hear a voice that you feel like is telling you the same things? And she was like, oh yeah, all the time. And I'm like, oh, really? So I go, I'm gonna do a test. I'm gonna start asking couples who are married the same question. And to my shock and awe, every couple said yes. And so I realized, man, that's how couples break up. That's how divorces happen. That's how boyfriend and girlfriends break up, is they start hearing a voice and they're focusing on the problems that are going wrong in their relationship, and they end up going, you know what, we just don't fit. And then we break up. So
yeah, and we might not even realize that those are really what needs to be worked out within us. Those expectations, those failures, those whatever that we want our spouse to be or become. Sometimes we want another version of ourselves, and who wants to date themselves?
yeah. Well, and that's kind of the issue. I mean, I think there's a great point that you just made, but the problem is that we're all naturally selfish and self-centered. And so when someone's not meeting our expectations of what we thought they would, then we're like, we're out. And and that's really having the wrong perspective about a relationship where two people are striving to operate as one. And so it was this awesome, crazy story that I was kind of reading in a news feed. And it was about a man and woman who got married. And this would be probably for me the quickest ending of a relationship. When we talk about our title, Should I Leave Him? This was just so crazy that we want to tell you about. So on their wedding day, they were kind of discussing how the reception would go. And the soon-to-be wife was telling her husband, like, hey, when we cut the cake, I don't want any shenanigans. Don't be trying to, like, put cake on me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not down for that. And so, but
Reasonable request.
reasonable request. I mean, she's all pretty, got her makeup on, she got her dress on. And,
It's your wedding day. You want to look presentable.
yeah, and you're going to take awesome pictures. So why would you want cake on you? But it's kind of a tradition. And so her husband was the type of guy that he's kind of a jokester, where he likes pulling shenanigans. And so when they were cutting the cake and pictures were getting ready to be taken, he decided, I'm just going to shove her head in the cake.
Oh, no. That cannot
So
be
he
good.
shoves her head into the cake, and she literally has cake all over her face.
After she already told him not to do that. So there was a purpose behind her saying not to do it, and it was because she's already had trauma of that happening before.
Yeah, she had some kind of issue that happened in a past relationship, and that she just knew this would be something that would really upset her. But little did he know that this was a deal breaker. She was like, I'm out. And so in that situation, literally the same day they got married and said, I do, and made all these promises of rich or poor, in sickness and in health, to death do us part, she's like, immediately, I'm out, I'm done.
And that just goes to show you as well that you really have to know your spouse. When someone says to do something, you have to honor that, because we always want to find out the backstory as to what's going on with them. And so when it is a circumstance of, okay, I'm a jokester, this is me, this is my personality, and I'm just going to do what I want, that's the selfishness of not understanding why that was important to the other person.
Yeah. So the question is, if you were in this person's shoes and you had communicated the same information, would you leave them? Would you end that relationship after several years of dating, several months of planning? There's this day where you have fallen in love with this person and you really were believing you're going to spend the rest of your life with them over one incident. I'm not going to say it's a minor incident, because obviously for her, it was a major incident.
Yeah.
So are you ready to throw away that relationship based on that?
And that in itself can be a really hard thing to answer, but those are circumstances that as husband and wife, we are always going to face that no matter what. I remember that even when me and my husband got together, he reminded me so much like one of my parents. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really hard for me. And it's because God wanted to do deeper healing within me. And so sometimes there's a purpose behind it in order for us to get really healed from our past, so we don't react the same way as adults today. And so we don't view people or circumstances as the same, because that's where we can tend to hold our trauma, is from our childhood.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And God does his greatest work in us through the adversities of life. And listen, we've been married now going on 8 years, and we've had our adversity. And as I look back into the things that we went through and the things that we were able to overcome, you know, on one end, I'm thinking, this is a deal breaker. I'm ready to end this. But I'm so glad that I didn't, because God did a work in me through the adversity and the problems and issues that we had. And really, it's ultimately saying, you know what, my love is strong. And this helped make our love for one another stronger, help us to learn more about each other. And so for Eva and I, we're like better for what we've gone through. We're better for the problems and issues that we've faced. And I'm just so glad that she didn't leave me, and I'm glad I didn't leave her over some things that in our minds and hearts during that time were major issues or were technically deal breakers, but yet we chose to, honor the vows that we took, standing before our family and friends about our love for each other. And that love is going to get tested. And so I'm so grateful that we were able to stand that test and grow stronger through the things that we experienced.
Yeah. And so think about how this other person might be strengthening you.
Yeah, because really, ultimately, the choice is yours. Should you leave him or should he leave her? That's your choice. But we're just hoping that before you make that quick decision, that you would do your best to try to work through the issues and difficulties in your relationship.